Oh yeah, welcome back to the channel. My name's AD. This is the garage. The driveway is out there where the Renault is sat without a gearbox, and the potential replacement gearbox that I've got my fingers crossed for is sat there. In the last few videos you would have seen we've tuned it up, tweaked it up. We're getting nearly 110 horsepower out of it, and then some numpty, namely me, didn't check the gearbox oil on the poor old 56-year-old gearbox, and yeah, that poor thing there ended up locking up a little bit on the dyno. Now it freed off when it had cooled down, but when I actually drained it off, there was probably less than half a cup of oil in there, and then that oil that came out was about a 50-50 mix of oil and metal. So though the gearbox still turns and does what it needs to do, we do need to take it apart at some point to have a look. We went to replace it with this, a 330 late Renault 10 1300 gearbox, which, so say, is the strongest, latest revision of the boxes before Renault went away from that style and went front wheel drive and such, in the Renault 5, which is where that gearbox is from, and that's a 5-speed that we may put together into a casing in the future. Well, I say we, or I won't be, but Steve Swan, who's been helping me out with this, is likely to build me one in the future. So where are we up to? Right, we've given it a bit of a clean. I've checked that it rotates, and it does, and then from that point onwards I need to replace some gaskets down here. There's one that goes in there and one that goes in there, and then parts are sided. Steve Swan has kindly sent me some bits down. I've got some new gaskets in this envelope. Yeah, and I've got to replace them. I've got two sets of gaskets because there are two different sizes available. What I've done so far is I've checked the one on this side, and we're 10 thou thick, so a 10 thou gasket will go back in, and I have to still check this side, but I'm assuming it's going to be 10 and 10, but I'll check it. It can be 5, 10. I'm assuming if it goes up to 15, I'm not sure that's a done thing. I'll check with Steve. But yeah, that's good to go once I've done those bits. I also need to put the mounts back on it. Now, we'll walk over here to this pile over here of wet stuff that's getting cleaned. These are my original gearbox mounts, and they're probably original to the car, and as you can see, they're split. So I've ordered some new ones, and I'm waiting for those to come from France. I've ordered those. I've ordered new engine mounts as well. So we're going to have fresh rubber holding it all in, and I've opted for the uprated gearbox mounts to hopefully keep it all bolted in a little bit tighter. But yeah, that's where we're up to. So once these bits turn up, I'll get this gearbox put back together, check it best I can, then we're going to slap it in the hole, and then we're going to test drive it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put some cheapo gearbox oil in to start with, just to flush it through. Some cheapo gearbox oil in it, just drive it around the corner, around the block, drop it again, make sure it's coming out clean and clear. If it's not, I'll flush it again. If it is, all good, and then we'll put some good stuff in there that I'm waiting on. I can't even remember what it is that I've ordered, but you'll see that shortly when it actually turns up. So we've ordered nearly 4 litres of the best gearbox oil, or the recommended gearbox oil, to go in this gearbox and hopefully keep it in one piece. Now, there is a chance that I put all this in and it's still shagged, and at which point then I'll have to decide what to do. But it might put a temporary kibosh on the Renault 8 project. But if you could all cross your fingers with me, by the end of this video we might see this in and running in the car. So wish me luck. Again, 10, 15, 20 minutes for you guys, a slew of days, evenings and hours for me putting it back in and reassembling it. But I hope you enjoyed the content, and let's get cracking. And here we have it, gearbox assembled, partially cleaned. We've got the 2 cups on. These uprated new gearbox mounts are ready to go. They don't actually go there, they go on afterwards. But they're from Arnaud Ventoux. Can't remember the name. I've stripped both the cups out, given them a really good cleaned up the mating faces on the gearbox and the cups, and measured up the old gaskets that came out. They were 10 thous, so I've refitted 10 thou gaskets. Cheers to Steve Swan for that. We've got the guided clutch fork on. This gearbox had a guided clutch setup anyway, and we've dropped the gearbox mount on the top. So next for me is to drag this under the car, lift it up, align it with the engine, push it on, loosely bolt it, and then lift everything into place. Now I'm not going to record the whole thing for you. There's going to be a lot of huffing, puffing, possibly swearing, but it is pretty much ready to go. So I'll go do that now, and then once that's in, it's reattaching all the tubes, drive shafts and everything. Actually, I'll give the UJs a quick once over before I put them back in. And then when they go back in with the tubes, we refit these. I don't know what they call them. They're like a bearing with a load of needle rollers in. It's the part that the tube pivots on from the gearbox. It's basically a race car, you know, like all these modern F1 cars that use the gearbox and engine as part of the suspension. It's going full circle, isn't it, really? Volkswagen Beetle, Renault 8, Porsche, modern sports cars. Yeah, back to that. So yeah, next update or next bit of this video should be this, all this scrap pile of parts back in the Renault 8, which is through the garage door. Right, gearbox is somewhere there. Literally put it on the edge of the jack, wiggled it, lined it up. Just need to get it to engage into the clutch. So it really was a lot easier getting it up and in so far than I'm not in frame, am I? Hello. Than removing it. So yeah, we're just going to rotate the crank and hopefully be able to pull the gearbox up into place, and then I can just put the 4 fixing bolts back in. And that's the gearbox on. Sweet as a nut. Right, let's get some nuts on that then. Oh. Genuinely, it was about less than 10 minutes work. Right, bit of a midway update. Where are we at? Not sure how well you can see that, but everything's up underneath. We've just got the gearbox mounting, side mounting plates to put back up. Made a bit of a foobar in my French order. These aren't the engine mounts, are the ones that sit at the back, so I'll have to reorder those at some point. But we're going in the right direction. So ideally, by the end of play, I want to have this engine up and running. We've got a few different things that we need to touch on though. So first off is finish up connecting up the gearbox, the gear shifter, speedo cable, clutch cable and all that lark underneath the car. And the droop straps need to go back on. What else have we done? So I don't know if you can see there, I've actually added a water temp sensor to the end of the head, like the later C3G engines, which were the last of the line C-Series engines, I think, in the Twingo. But what that has left me with, because I did a DIY bodge, is a hole here that I tapped into for my original water temp sensor. So what I've done is I've quickly used a bit of aluminium bar and I've made a plug. I'm just going to tap that to the same thread size, and then I'm going to drive that in, maybe put a bit of araldite or something around it just to make sure it seals and it goes in nicely and that doesn't leak in the future. That will allow me to have, instead of, so the water flow comes out of here into the rad and back out, my water temp sensor, not that I use it for much on the ECU, read water temp on the exit of the rad, and really we want water temp of the engine itself, so water temp sensor down the other end of the head should sort that. But yeah, going in the right direction for sure. All being well, we can get this up and running and test driven. I'm still very hopeful for a working old gearbox in there. It could all still go to pot. Lots of graft, lots of getting on my back, but fingers crossed we're out and about driving very soon. Cracking on. Right, so I've got the gear stick attached. I guess the next thing to do is just see whether first, third, fourth. Oh. Mechanically it seems to shift. So let's carry on. So there's another little tip for you, so you don't do what I do. If you're putting a new gearbox in, make sure you can get the drain plug bungs out. On this there on the side, mine's totally seized in. I can't get it in, it's now rounding off. So my only option, I think, is to weld a nut on the top of it, hopefully, and the heat and the nut on there should release it from the housing, and give me a nut to actually have some purchase on. So yeah, we're going to give this a go. Hopefully I don't burst into flames. Really hope I don't. It's these little things that drag on the job. If everything went together and came apart nicely, it'd be great, but we are dealing with like 50-60-year-old parts. So yeah, let's get under the car, weld it a nut on. Hopefully I've got a nut big enough that'll go over. I'll have a look now, find some scrap, put it on there and go from there, I guess. Right, so we got it off. I actually ran out of welding wire, so that didn't happen. And in the end, I whacked on a E14 socket backwards, so it went over the square drive that's on the plugs. And then I put a T55 bit in there and put some leverage on there, and it wound out. And I had to do the same on the bottom one, the drain plug. But we're now slowly filling. I haven't recorded it, but what I've done is basically I took both drains out, or the bottom drain out, poured some fluid in, let it just flush through straight away, dribble out the bottom. Then I've put the blanking plug in the bottom, and now I'm slowly filling up the top. We're just chucking in some 75, what we got, some cheap 75/80 that I got kicking around, just to get some in there, and then tomorrow we should have a delivery of some decent stuff. But yeah, we had a moment of, whilst I was in there, so we're now reluming it a little bit. I want to move a couple of the sensors. As I said, I've put the temp sensor at the back, so I need to move that. I want to move the map sensor on the advice of the mapper, because it sits slightly lower, so really I need to move it higher to stop condensation traveling to the map sensor and sitting in there. But yeah, so we've started unlooming everything, which is taking some time because this sticky stuff is really flipping sticky, the loom tape that I put on. So yeah, we're just doing that. Once that's done, I can drop the rad back in. I'm going to put the manual fan back on, the mechanical fan back on, just temporarily until I can sort out proper airflow in here. Ideally I want it to come this way through. I don't think the electric fan that I've got is decent enough, but hey ho. The mechanical fan works perfectly fine, except it draws the air that way. And I'm going to try and put this under panel back on this side, just to try and aid that. Can't put one on this side because of the exhaust manifold. But yeah, a little longer than I expected, but still on the right track. It's fighting me, but you know, I'd say if it was easy, it'd be boring. It wouldn't. I'd like it to be easy and just get it and drive it. I'm still need to fill this up and get this ready to run before I can even test this gearbox. And you never know, it might be coming back out. And at that point, you know, I'll just be done this side of Christmas. But yeah, we'll get this loom in, then we'll wrap it up, and then hopefully the next bit that I jump in on when this comes back, you know, with the internet wizardry and editing, is me trying to give it a drive. So yeah, back in a sec. Right, I've switched over to this one because I'm pretty sure my GoPro has just thrown a wobbly. Not really sure, but if there's no real footage before this, that's on me. So we are back on the floor, we are back moving. I've gone to the end of the drive in first and second and put it in reverse, and it moved a little bit. So really, next thing to do, I think, is still recording. Yeah, the next thing to do is actually take it for a short test drive. I'm gonna let it warm up a little bit because I've got to check for some leaks. There was nothing obviously pouring out at the bottom of the gearbox after filling it up. I've got my filler still in there. Oh, she looks good sat down there. I've missed it on the floor. It's been jacked up like a bloody hover car for ages. But yeah, she's slightly warmed up, she's running, and we're going to give her a test drive, I guess. Right guys, that's it. We're going to give it its first test drive. Don't know what to expect. I feel like I actually need to adjust the clutch pedal already because there's a bit of play in that. But as long as it engages enough, I can get it in gear, that'll be good. I've got the laptop here so I can watch the water temps, because I've changed where the sensor is. We're basically just going to drive and hope for the best. If it goes through all 4 gears and runs perfectly fine, no bangs, no knocks, nothing silly, no whines. Did I say whines already? Yeah, I'll class it as good to go. And so wish me luck, fingers crossed and all that lark. And if it's good, we'll do some miles, drop the fluid, check that's okay, and then put some good stuff in there and we're good to go. Can't really see out the window. That noise you can hear is just the wheels on the arches. Right, yeah, we're seemingly good. Car's driven, we've got some miles on it. I'm going to do a few more and then change out the fluid. I'm not sure what else there is to say. My cheapo unknown gearbox at this moment in time is holding together. So I'm probably going to knock this video on the head, but we do need to get back to the dyno, so we'll do another video on that. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. I definitely need a rev gauge in here, I know that much.